Hi BookTube! I'm here with another 12 books for 2021, and this time I'm going to be talking about ebooks. I was looking at my files for ebooks and I have almost 700, so there's going to be two goals. I don't want to acquire any more ebooks. I'm done. I gotta read what I have, and I want to read at least one each month in the coming year. I know that'll only be 12 out of 700, but I think my physical TBR is going to take priority this year, but I still want to tackle this list a little. So I'm going to come here with 12 ebooks that I want to read in 2021, going from January to December, and I had some stipulations for picking this out to hit some other goals that I had. So I wanted it to be kind of random, so I asked Google for some numbers that corresponded to the different files, and then I wanted to pick out preferably a female author, and then preferably an author from a country other than Canada, US, and UK. That didn't always work out, but I think I got enough to fulfill some of those goals that I have set for 2021. So in January, I want to read The Just City by Jo Walton. She's Welsh-Canadian, so it didn't... I kind of hit that mark of... Well, no, that's in the UK, isn't it? It did not hit the mark of reading outside of the country, but it is a female author. And this is about Pallas Athene, who is a time-traveling goddess who has created a city where she has taken children from throughout history, past and future, and teachers from the past and future, and kind of sticks them all on this island to kind of create this ideal education. And we follow some unknown characters, some kind of famous historical figures, and a human, Apollo, as well. It sounds really interesting. It's been on my radar for a long time, and I thought, finally, we'll get to it. In February, I want to read Vita Nostra by Marina and Sergey Dyachenko, and they're Ukrainian, so that's the not from an English-speaking country, and they're female. Or one of them's female. Marina's female. Sergey's male, but it still counts towards women authors. This is about Sasha, who's kind of forced to attend this mysterious university by this creepy man, who also forces her to do scandalous tasks in exchange for golden coins. I didn't want to know much more about that going into it, so I didn't kind of read any more about the plot because it seemed like it was kind of spoilery. But I've heard interesting things about it through BookTube. I know some people didn't like it, and some people did like it, so we'll see. It sounded intriguing enough for me. In March, I want to read The Honjin Murders by Seishi Yokomizo, and he's Japanese, so that's from a non-English speaking country. Australia's kind of exempted from that because I want to read more Australian and New Zealand books, so I just find non-English speaking, and there's a lot of other non-English speaking, there's other English speaking countries, so that's a weird category. I don't want to read books from Canada, the US, or UK. I want to kind of, well, I do, but I want to go to other places. Little tangent there, sorry. Anyway, so he's Japanese, he is male, so it didn't hit the female checkbox, but I couldn't get everything that I wanted. I had to sometimes pick one goal over the other. This is a classic detective novel. It takes place in 1937 Japan, and someone is murdered before the wedding of a prominent family. And I really enjoyed detective stories from other countries. I've been reading the series set in Norway. A detective, historical fiction, detective novel thing, mix of genres. So I thought it'd be interesting to try one from Japan. And then in April, I want to read Second-Hand Time by Sveltana Alexievich, and she's Belarusian, and she's female, so that's 2 boxes checked. Awesome. And it's also nonfiction, which is kind of like not a solid formed goal, but is kind of like a background kind of, I want to read more nonfiction type thing. Anyways, it's the oral history of kind of like normal people, so not people that you normally read about in history, after the or during the disintegration of the Soviet Union, telling the stories of people who are not normally given a voice in history. And this is really particularly interesting to me because my grandfather, we call him Opa because he married a German woman, but he was Ukrainian and went through the Holodomor, which was the Russian famine imposed on Ukraine. and his parents were killed. I'm discovering a lot about where he grew up, and his the town that he was from had a lot of revolutionary activity and Ukrainian independence. So it's really kind of interesting to read about that area now. This was the stuff that we found out kind of recently at the end of the year, so it's something I want to explore more in my reading for next year, and I think Secondhand Time is a interesting place to start there. Next, I want to read Dictionary of the Khazars by Milorad Pavic, and he's Serbian. He is male, so one check there. And this has been on my radar for a super long time, and I finally want to get to it. So when it came up on the random number generator, I was just like, yes! I don't even care if there's another female author from another country. I really want to read this book. This is super exciting. And there's a male edition and a female edition, and the only difference is that there's a short passage at the end of the book in the female edition. I got the androgynous edition, which I think just has everything that's included. Yeah, so this is an imaginary dictionary and encyclopedia with entries from the Khazar people, who are real people in history, but I think the book is, I'm sure, 100% sure the book is fictional, but the people are real. There's no real plot, but it is about kind of like the history of the mass conversion of the Khazars to Judaism. And right now I'm reading A History of God by Karen Anderson, which talks about the history of the three: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And so I think having that non-fiction background and going into this will be quite interesting. In June, I want to read When I Hit You by Meena Kandasamy, and she's Indian and she's female, so that's 2 boxes checked there. This is about a woman who's abused by her husband, and the Goodreads page says, what for her is a contract of love is for him a contract of ownership, and that he sets about reducing her to his idealized version of a kept woman. And I don't want to say I want to read about this, but I can't, like, because, you know, who wants to read about abuse? It's not a nice thing to read about, but it's something that I think should be read about. So that's why it's on the list here. In July, Untold Night and Day by Suah. She's South Korean and she's female, so again, 2 boxes checked there. This is about a night and a day in one woman's life. And it had some of my favorite bookish buzzwords, like disorienting, fever dream, overlapping realities, that kind of like don't know where you are kind of feeling in a book. Like, is this real? What's happening? Is this a dream? Is this reality? I really like that, and I want to see how it's done in this book. In August, I'll be reading Nervous Conditions, and I'm sorry I didn't look up the pronunciation of the name, so I'm just going to have it on the screen here. I'm not even going to try and pronounce that, but she's from Zimbabwe, and she's female, so again, 2 boxes checked there. Not that I'm just like reading these books to check boxes. Well, I am. I'm hoping that I'm choosing these books because they sound good to me as well. This book is very popular this year because the 3rd book in the series was nominated for the Booker Award. But it's intersecting post-colonialism, feminism, class issues, and racism. And we follow Tambu and the women in her family in 1960s Rhodesia, which is now modern day Zimbabwe. So that sounds really interesting. I hope it lives up to the hype. September, I want to read Figuring by Maria Popova. And she's Bulgarian and she's female, so again, 2 boxes checked there. This is an exact quote. Explores the complexities of love and the human search for truth and meaning through the interconnected lives of several historical figures across 4 centuries. And that was enough to get me to pick it up. And yeah, I like going into books kind of vaguely not knowing what the plot is about. Okay, in October, I want to read I Remain in Darkness by Annie Ernaux, and this is a French female. So again, 2 boxes checked, always something good I want to look forward to. This is about a relationship between a mother and a daughter as a mother deals with Alzheimer's. And I work in a field where a lot of my patients have dementia and Alzheimer's, and it's a topic that fascinates me. So I want to read as much fiction as I can about it, and this seems like an interesting place to start. November, I'll be reading The Lost Arabs by Omar Sakr. He's Australian, so that does count because I've been saying non-English speaking countries, but there are a lot of English speaking countries out of there that I want to read from. I think what I meant by that was US, Canada, UK are kind of, I read a lot of books from those three places and I kind of want to branch out to different places, so Australia is kind of one of those places where I haven't read too much from. Some of my favorite books are from Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, that kind of area. So that's why it doesn't count, but Australia does tick the box there. And this is a book of poetry by a bisexual Muslim Australian man about belonging, personal identity, you know, clashing with family and culture. So who you are is different from your family and your culture, and coming to terms with that. And lastly, in December, I want to read Woman at Point Zero by Nawal al-Saadawi, and she's Egyptian and female, so again, 2 boxes. Yay! And this is about, I don't think I've ever read any Egyptian literature. I could be wrong about that. Aside from like mythology and like the pyramids and stuff like that. Yeah, so that was just a little thing going off there. And this is about a woman who's sent to prison for murdering a pimp and telling her kind of life story of how she ended up in that situation. Sounds quite interesting to me. So those are the 12 ebooks. Trying to hit the goals of female author and or author from a country other than the US, UK, and Canada. Editing Courtney here. I just thought I'd insert the stats of how many female authors and how many people from, I called it other continents. It's a little iffy how to summarize that content very quickly, so here's the list here. So hopefully I'll meet some of those goals that I have for 2021 with this list, and thank you for watching.